Sahanavavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahi Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Ma. The quest to solve the riddle of this universe has been fascinating mankind from the beginning of time. And this is an important question, not just academically, but also if we were to explore this question and understand it and possibly receive some answers, then that would reflect on the purpose of our life also, don't you think so? Because we are here in this known universe, and if we understand why the universe, then it is also possible to better understand why me. So this is a very important question, and as a result, this question has been approached by two brave sets of people. One is the category of the religious people, and the other is the category of people who are scientists. And they have proposed different theories. In the discussion on causation of the universe, certain important factors come to light for us. We must understand that in any discussion on how is the universe caused and how does it come into existence, there are three important factors that we must consider. One of them is about the efficient cause, or you can say that there must be, if there is something caused, an intelligence involved in it. Do you agree? This would be the efficient cause. Then there would be the material cause, which means there must be some raw material with which the world has been made. Do you agree? And thirdly, there would be the instrumental cause, which means there must have been a process through which the raw material has been converted into this world with all its multiplicity and complexity. Would you agree? So we have already deliberated further that if we are to debate causation of this universe, these are three important factors that you and I will continue exploring today. Now, the theistic people, the religions from all over the world, they have been posing that there is some kind of superpower that we call God, and that superpower from either will or from a place of sports called Leela, enjoyment, pleasure, or to help us or to punish us for various reasons. Moral reasons have been also attributed. God has created the universe. Now, if such is the case, and if we think about the three criteria, and if we accept God as the efficient cause or the intelligence behind the universe, which is conceivable, it is not difficult to conceive of a superpower behind this intelligent, beautiful, organized, amazing universe. We can accept that there is an efficient cause, but then the question can be raised of what is the material cause of the universe. So is God like a potter, and therefore this clay is outside him? Because we cannot say that God created, this world out of a vacuum. Is that okay? Is that okay to debate that way without any disrespect to any sentiments as such? But we are talking here from a rational place. Now, if this material is outside God, then did God enter it? Is God part of it? Or is God fully entered into it? And if God has fully entered into it, has God in itself become annihilated? So, what is what? Because if this world has been created by God and from God, then what explains the inequalities in the universe? And does it justify the majesty of God as the humans conceive of it? So there is some kind of lacunae, some gaps. And not just the major religions of the world, but Advaita Vedanta is a prime philosophy of the Hindus. And the Hindu Shruti itself, the Hindu text itself, from time to time have given these theories of God created the universe from sport, from Leela. God created the universe for X, Y, Z. And these theories were created, but Advaita Vedanta has gone beyond these theories because they were not satisfactory. Now let's look at the scientific reasons of evolution. So first of all, postulates like can unintelligent matter create intelligent life? Can unintelligent life give birth to more intelligence? Can less intelligence create more intelligence? So it's little hard to conceive. And then theories like the survival of fittest are interesting, but if the rest of the universe is looked at, and if you look at the amazing harmony and cooperation in nature, if you look at the intrinsic, inherent wholeness, where each part does not really operate in selfishness and individual isolation, but owes its existence to the whole. Do you agree? Then the survival of the fittest seems to decry all ethics that is obvious in the universe. Because at its base is every unit struggling for itself. And what we notice is really all units are part of an intrinsic wholeness. So, matter creating life, matter converting into life, life fighting with itself to grow with each other, each unit alone and struggling, seems again somewhat questionable. Then there were these class of people in India, ancient India, and they are called seers or rishis, sages, sadhus. These rishis seemed to know something, and they were living in great peace. Their faces were glowing. They seemed to have got the answer about this very significant question of the world, and therefore they knew about God and themselves. When we go to them to try to understand, well, what do you know about causation? There is no easy answer. It is like asking about, what do you think about the concept of relativity, and can you answer me in 2 minutes? It's not possible. One can't exactly play with the concept of relativity. For an example to you. So therefore, this is very subtle knowledge that the rishis had, which is being conveyed to you through this series of Advaita Vedanta lectures. And this knowledge is beyond the boundaries of cause and effect. And it is, for some of you here, impossible to know. Even if I talk about causation for the whole year, and for the rest of your time with us. And for some of you, today itself, as I talk, it will become self-evident. So, it requires for you to not quickly accept it and to not quickly dismiss it. I want to present to you some concepts which will require your considered contemplation. So the Rishi said, actually, this whole cosmos suddenly springs into manifestation by the simple act of the seer seeing. So it is an instant creation. And for those people who cannot accept this responsibility, that instant to instant, they are creating the universe in which they are participating. It is so cumbersome. And so they argue, but it is so objective. I can touch you, feel you, smell you. This is a different kind of reality. And I want to know that either someone created it by their super power or it evolved from something tangible. I want either an evolution theory or a transformation theory, and for them we create theories. And we have some nice spiritual ones too in the fold of Hinduism. But Advaita Vedanta says that it is not krama srishti, which means it has slowly transformed by some substance, by an intelligence, through a process, but it is yugapat srishti. It has instantaneously sprung into manifestation based upon the nature of the consciousness in the mind of each one of us. I'm reminded of knowledge that is being revealed in the arena of quantum physics, which says that the moment the subject looks at the particle at rest, it becomes a wave. And when the seeing stops, the movement stops. So in this universe, there is only subject, no object. Shall I proceed or is it already too much? Yes or no?
Yes.
As we continue to explore, this srishti means creation. This word srishti means the creation, the creation. Well, let us look at some of the theories of creation offered in the Indian Shadadarshans or the Indian philosophies. We have the philosophy of Arambhavad. Arambhavad means, if I had to translate it into rough English, I would say the philosophy of new beginnings, the philosophy of ever new creations. And what it is saying is that each effect is a brand new creation from the cause. There was immediate criticism to it within India of other philosophies, which said, how can it be so? If effect and cause are separate, then anything can come out of anything. Oil can come out of sand, and perfume can come out of rock. This was discounted. So the next theory is known as Satkaryavad, which is the theory of transformation. And it says that the effect is pre-existent in the cause, which means that oil is already pre-existent in the sesame seed. When you see the seed, there is only the rough, or rather the dry, hard pellet of a seed. But oil is pre-existing in it. So the previous set of people said, very nice, very smart. If the cause is already pre-existent in if the effect is already pre-existent in the cause, why bother having cause and effect? So the transformationist responded, no. The effect is latent, but through a process they become patent. So then the question was raised by the opposing lobby, is that right? Then can we ask you, how does it know how much of it to transform into the effect? Does all of it transform? And then that means the cause has ended, annihilated? Or only part has transformed? So what happens to the previous cause? Half transformed. And what happens to the effect? So basically they all argued with each other in the open philosophical, scientific debates of the Indian subcontinent in ancient India, and these minds basically were added with each other and they crossed each other out. And neither of these philosophies were then therefore the absolute truth, because in the first lecture itself I told you that for something to be real, it has to be applicable in past, present, future. It has to hold true for every group of people, every set of rules in every era. And if there are any exclusive ways of a construct behaving, it cannot be called a truth. This left the room for Advaita Vedanta's postulate of creation, the theory of creation, to come forward. And it is called Vivartavad. It means there is causation, but there is no creation in it, and there is no transformation in it. Vivarta means it is kind of a variant of the transformative theory, which says that effect definitely pre-exists in the cause, however, the cause never changes. Though there is an effect, but that effect is merely an appearance. Effect is nothing new. It is only the cause appearing as an effect. Thus, a new thing appears differently without ceasing to be itself, just like when there was a rope in the room with less lighting, it was always a rope, even though to the one who did not know it's a rope in the room, it was a real live snake. Until such time the person was informed that it is a rope, it was a snake with all its glory and ability to bring about the manifestation of panic, sweat, fear in the person. But when the light was switched on, the snake was able to become or collapse back into what it always was, which is the rope. However, this is a transformation, but it is not a pure transformation, because this transformation is not permanent and it collapses back into the original substratum once there is knowledge. If you transform milk into yogurt, yogurt cannot be replaced with the milk. Do you agree? But you can resolve the snake back into the rope by correct apprehension. Do you agree? So, Vivarta, so creation according to Advaita Vedanta is neither creation, neither evolution, nor transformation, merely an appearance of what? Because if every appearance, you have already learned in the previous lecture, there has to be a more substantial substratum. You realize that? Just like an image in the mirror will have an objective, substantive entity of which it is a mirror, and this appearance is of the beginningless, the endless, the imperishable, and the infinite Satchit Ananda, which is Brahman. So there never was and is a cosmos except when, due to a delusional misapprehension, due to ignorance within us, it appears to be so. Allow me to continue explaining this piece to you. It literally comes from the word vivarta, and vivarta literally means that which is constantly changing from one state to another. So the world appears to us as is our state of consciousness. This phenomena is apparently a changeable phenomena, a delusion-based phenomena, a misapprehension-based personalized phenomena, and it is a purely subjective phenomena, and it is not real, because the only thing real, as per definition of reality, which is Sat, which will be always changeless, and there is only one, and in Advaita there cannot be two, so hence the world, even though it appears so multiple and separate from Brahman, where is really only Brahman appearing to the deluded one as a complex, multiplicity-driven universe, but we slowly, through the process of right contemplation and question mark, as we shed avidya, we actually, in this living body, arrive upon a time to wake up to the actuality of the reality, and then this world and all its snakes disappear, and the one Brahman shines everywhere, in me, in you, and in all. Just as the rising waves have no individual existence, but they are one ocean, in the same way, the external world, with all its happenings, goings, events, and people, and the internal world, with all its thoughts, emotions, physical events, biological events, emotional events, thought events, intellectual events, they all ultimately dissolve back and rest from where they have arisen, which is one pure consciousness. Everything else comes and goes, but this one pure conscious awareness remains. That conscious awareness is the subject, the seer, and it is none but the Brahman. So the universe, this cosmos, is neither Sat, fully real, because it is only an appearance of that, nor is it Asat. We are not saying it does not exist. We are merely saying that it exists only till such time we buy into that, because in reality it is not jata or born, it has not been produced by someone, it is merely a vikara of Brahman, which means it's a distortion of the reality, the absolute reality, based upon our limitation. And hence, at the empirical world, in the Vyavaharika reality, the world does exist. However, in the Paramarthika reality, when we reach that state of moksha or in touch with the absolute reality, at that time there is only Brahman. So what is really unitary becomes and appears to be multiple. What really has no form takes on form, rupa, and name. What has no qualities becomes filled with qualities. What is really actionless, steady and sthira becomes full of activity. So thus, due to our own ignorance, which we called avidya, which is due to the operation of something called a cosmic ignorance, maya, which we will talk about in the next coming up sessions, we perceive this universe. Now this is a little bit heavy for a lot of people. This is very uncomfortable. But allow me to continue to give you common sense and repeated examples to keep making the point. Because the goal of Advaita Vedanta satsang is to gently shake us from our comfortable baskets of how physical and gross and tight and imposed upon us is the outer world. And then therefore, it leaves room for the mind to now think of new paradigms, and you truly become an owner of a universe that we are creating in every moment. You know, this world is so well defined, our gross world. It has been measured in millimeters or centimeters or miles and inches. It has time, 24-hour. It has space, which is 3-dimensional. But in reality, Advaita Vedanta says that really, is it so fixed? Advaita Vedanta says time and space are totally relative concepts. You could dream and age 10 years in your dream and wake up and realize 10 minutes have gone by. You could spend excruciating hours worrying and weeping and crying over a loss, hours, feels like a lifetime, and then you realize only 30 minutes have actually passed on the clock. And you could be so excited and oblivious of the time, and so in a state of joy, and then you realize a whole lifetime has passed by. So time is as expansive or as constricted as we want it to be. Similarly, space. We have a 3-dimensional space in the world. But then when the same mind goes to sleep and projects a dream and projects a world, in that small brain-mind capacity, that if the dream is happening in the in the brain space due to nerves and other things and the functioning of the mind, you can say the brain and nerves are the structure and the mind is the function or power. We look what all we pack in this small space. Mountains, deserts, open sky, buildings, thousands of people. So space is also quite relative. So in the dream space and the dream time, just as a whole world of objects of the world are perceived by the dreamer, so the dreamer perceives objects of the dream through the instrument of the process of dreaming, but upon waking up, recognizes that it was only a dream. However, when this dreamer was dreaming and interacting with the objects of the dream and experiencing related joys and sorrows, the dreamer had forgotten completely, not even partially, their identity in their awake self. And in relativity field, in the relative realm of time and space in the dream world, ultimately the experience was of joy and sorrow. Wherefore these worlds came and were populated by objects giving joy and sorrow. Upon investigation in Advaita Vedanta, the dreamer realizes that actually the dreamer, the dream, and the process of dreaming can be reduced to one homologous entity called the mind. The mind alone became the dreamer, the mind alone became the dreamed worlds, and the mind alone became the dreaming process. And the mind alone generated experiences of joy and sorrow. So it got reduced to the mind. Back in the awake world, we have the awake human being dividing himself up or herself up into the knower of what is going on, the known of the objects, and the process of knowing. Oh, I'm not in a dream, I know, and I am knowing, and I am trying to know. But if you collapse these three activities back, what do you experience? Your mind. And so therefore, what you have to understand is that your mind is projecting these. When you are dreaming, you are projecting personal worlds. And when you are awake, the state of consciousness projects an empirical common world, yet with your personal versions to it. So hence, neither is real. Just because this is three-dimensional and 24-hour cycle, and it seems to be a little more, you wake up to the same, does not mean it is real, because it does not last and it's gone when the other worlds are here. And the other world is also not real because they do not last when these worlds are here. If you were a limited being, a Caucasian, a certain color with a certain condition, then it should be so in your dream where you are a different entity, a different race, and in a different time zone flying. Then who are you? And which world are we talking about? And so Advaita Vedanta says it is vivarta, it is only a reflection, as in when the dreamer woke up and realized it was a dream and those worlds were a dream, when certain few people, the chosen few, the few who are brave enough to go through the Advaita Vedanta path and contemplate on it, they will also wake up from this magic show. Because we are told this feels very real and it gives you joys and sorrows. It comes back every few hours in which you participate. Then it disappears, then it comes back. There is one more way to be, and that beingness is the beingness of the true self, of the truth, of the Brahman, which is Atman. And when that space will be achieved, which is beyond space and time, where reasoning cannot reach, where causation does not matter, where only the one is, at that time the non-dual truth of yourself is achieved. And at that time there is no difference between you, what you are participating in and what seems to be your creator God. And ultimately only one remains. Sarvam khalu idam Brahman. All is Brahman. It is not some electrical experience achieved on a yoga mat necessarily. It is the state of the consciousness which has now accepted its ultimate bigness. It is big. And at that time, Sarvam, all that I see, think, cannot conceive, am, everything is one. And then begins the participation of our consciousness in that oneness, which is Sat Chit Ananda, infinite, intelligent, and bliss. Why? Why this? This is something that we will discuss in forthcoming satsangs. However, what Advaita Vedanta is clarifying is that the very nature of oneness is that it cannot be two. And it never comes down from that level and concedes, yeah, well, but there's a world. Yeah, well, there's you and then there is, your student. Yeah, well, there's you, but there's a special class of being called the God. Oh, and the God's relatives, or the God's special people. Well, there is matter, and that's not divine. This is divine. That's lesser, this is more. This is evil, this is good. If all is one, then that oneness becomes our God. And this oneness, the more we experience it, we begin to take on a new understanding because of which we shed our ignorance. There is nothing to become, nothing to aspire to, but only to drop our ignorance, which is called avidya at individual level and maya at a cosmic level. As we shed it, what always was is, the snakes disappear and the beautiful rope shines through. And you know this from your own experience, that you might have been walking around with a certain ignorance within you and a teacher came into your life, or an elder came in your life, or a timely stranger came in your life and reminded you of your power. And then nothing happened. You sat there for a minute and suddenly you shed something, which was your belief that you are powerless. Am I correct? Nothing else happened. You only shed a couple of ounces of ignorance, and therefore you were several trillion pounds more powerful. And I'm creating a very non-logical example here with very strange measurement. But I am trying to be dramatic in my language to tell you we have nothing to do and nowhere to go but open our understanding with Advaita Vedanta, so that then we find slowly that oneness is the only truth. And so therefore we even start accepting all parts of us, even the ashamed parts of us, even the darker parts of us, because we ultimately begin to understand that I, the glorious one, due to an operation of avidya or misapprehension, has started believing in my smallness. But as I let that belief system be changed with the help of satsang and right knowledge, there will be nothing but Sat, Chit and Ananda. This is a powerful call for people to become who they truly are. But to become who they truly are, it doesn't require action. It doesn't even require devotion. As in, Yeah, we teach you how to be devoted to your Ayurvedic practice. We teach you how to be devoted to your elders. But I'm talking about, we don't necessarily need to be devoted to something external to us. Though Advaita Vedanta says devotion to Guru and God are the first steps, because if you're not devoted, you won't come to satsang, you won't listen, your heart won't be open. And it doesn't even require action, which means you don't have to necessarily do something noble. Like if you do, so many units of seva and so much activity, then you will rise. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga, both of these yogas are necessary to purify us to even have a satsang on Advaita Vedanta. Because then, because of bhakti, we are open, our heart is open, because this knowledge has to go beyond the limited mind and its concepts of time, space and causation. And karma yoga has converted us from this selfish, self-absorbed entity into someone who is already beginning to recognize God in all. And it's only then that with jnana yoga or right knowledge, for example, we can, just through knowledge alone of the mind and its misapprehension, gradually, as the seer, choose to look through the varying levels of fogs and limitations, and actually begin to become more aware of the observer more than the observed. So even, for example, when I'm dreaming, I'm so aware of Advaita Vedanta. When I'm awake, I'm aware of this Yugapat Srishti, this instantaneous creations. And that is why now through this understanding we can say that the seer has a lot of power. The seer is absolutely powerful. But such time that the seer does not know this knowledge, does not accept this knowledge, does not let this knowledge untie the threads of, the empirical world and the reflectional, pratibhasika demons or angels in the mind, pulling us, likes, dislikes, aversions, avarices, biases and imagined things. Until such time we pause this knowledge, we may hear it spellbound, but it will disappear. It will disappear very quickly, because this knowledge cannot stay in the ordinary mind. Such is the nature of the cosmic Maya, the cosmic nescience, the cosmic ignorance that envelopes us, and back we go into feeling small and broken and lost and forgotten, or doggy dog world and every person for themselves, and there we are lost. And then occasionally, through this knowledge, our mind, because of the activity of the seer, begins to just become quiet and see. And as it just sees, in the act of seeing with knowledge, all these monstrous snakes fall away. And then the seer, what is seen, and the act of seeing become one. And because the seer is Brahman, all that is Brahman. And then begins the most beautiful journey in a human's life. And this is why we want to be born as a human, because we are that rare animal that is self-aware. Other living creatures participate in it. They give us priyam, joy, but they are unable to see through it. So this is a game. It is not. It is an appearance, but to the one who has awakened, just as the dream ends, the dream of this awakened world ends, So does this empirical world is it? Such answers, Vedanta laughs and says, to some we can be bothered with these questions, but really with this mind can we know? But there is a possibility that this world will completely reveal itself to be quite different. Once, just like from the dream world, your awakened world is very different, awake world. Then from this awake world, your awakened consciousness will create and unleash for us a whole different set. And that is nothing but, there is no disunity, there is only Brahman. So with this I end.